Welcome to Freshly Forever, a podcast that gives you fascinating insights week after week. Here's your host, Vi Kumar.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode on podcast Freshly Forever. We have here with us Dr. Kousalya Nathan, a lifestyle and anti-aging expert. We asked her on seasonal eating and how it impacts immunity and gut health. Here's what she had to say. What about seasonal eating and what about immunity? Like we have heard that 70-80% of our immune system resides in the gut. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I'm just moving on to this aspect of, seasonal eating and immunogenic foods. I think as our traditional system has been, and I think again, I'll go back to the grandmother and mother tale. Probably I may sound very vintage here, but I think our parents were very clear on giving us only seasonal fruits. Because now I go out of way to fetch strawberry from somewhere which doesn't grow here at all. Just because my children like strawberries or blueberries, I think we go out of way to fetch them fancy kiwis and stuff which doesn't belong to our Indian environment at all. And we don't have the season of kiwis at all. So we spend nearly probably which is around 200 rupees to Indian rupee for a kiwi, which probably maybe around $2 to $3 in US. But for us here, that's a lot of money, to buy one kiwi fruit. So what I'm trying to tell you is we have, at least here in the Indian environment, have beautiful indigenous fruits and vegetables, which are absolutely seasonal, fantastic, grown in our nearby areas, which can, for example, I live in Chennai, and I tell you, I think around 200, 300 kilometers from here, we have the maximum varieties of mangoes. I think, why do we have to stop anybody from eating mango? I think we shouldn't. So I think the seasonal fruits, the vegetable, you get this palm fruit and, which we call it iced apple. We have seasonal stuff which comes with season, watermelons, muskmelons, all that, with the summer coming in or then the spring, or we have probably, the humid weather here. So I think certain fruits are available throughout the year, but certain things probably are highly kind of seasonal oriented. It is very, very important to respect nature when it comes to nurturing ourselves. I think the more we respect nature to nurture, I think we are in alignment with our environment. I think if we can bring that into our system, I think that's the best you can do for yourself. I would call it, that's the natural way of pampering yourself, I think pampering yourself is not going out of way to fetch things which doesn't exist. Pampering yourself is having abundance of what's coming into the season when it comes to fruits or vegetable or, any form of greens or whatever it may be. I think that's a very important part that all of us need to cultivate. There can be a 20% of some intrusion of some non-seasonal foods, but by and large, an 80% of your meal has to be more on seasonal and indigenous. And when it comes to immunogenic kind of immune boosters or immunogenic responses, our best is about having a vegetable juice. It can be, I generally tell my clients that, pull in whatever is there. You don't have to feel, probably nothing fancy. I think food, the simpler it is, it's going to work. The more complicated, the more kind of ingredients or more difficult you make it, it's going to be really difficult. So I think there was a time where people in India were talking too much against rice, which is our indigenous, staple food, rice. But I feel rice is the most healthiest, and idli, which we have, the pancake, the rice pancake, is now declared and accepted by even World Health Organization as one of the safest and the most healthiest food which is a fermented food, as we are talking about the gut microbiome, these kind of fermented foods gives good, good flora and fauna. The digestion level is so smooth. The absorption is again easier because it's a partially digested foods. I think we need to incorporate whatever is there in the environment, which is there in the culture, to keep our immunity on, rather than completely having following the Western world in our nutrition, which probably has caused most of the problem here in our Asian population. It can be diabetes, it can be obesity, it can be hypertension. All those lifestyle disorders is because of the disruption, or we trying to adapt something which probably are genetically not compatible to. I think that bit we need to understand. Similar way in the Western world, like they're used to probably oats, or some and a small grain, or an omelette, or whatever it could be, the breakfast, or a bowl of fruits that has to be retained with probably a combination meal for lunch, and then probably a soup or a salad, or some form of a meat for dinner. So I think we need to go with our traditional practices. 20% can be for experimentation. So if we can maintain this, which will be harmonious to our system, then I think our immune system would be pretty strong and very kind of conducive to balance many things over in coping these kind of challenging situation.
Okay, what a wonderful message. Source locally and eat what is grown locally. Focus on what is available during the season instead of, just keeping food simple instead of keeping it complex and going further to fetch it.
Listeners, as always, follow the podcast, rate the podcast, and leave a review from your podcast app of choice. Follow me on Instagram and YouTube at YP Kumar. That's VAIPKUMAR for all things digital media and lifestyle. Until next time, with yet another interesting guest and yet another interesting topic, it's me, Vi, saying so long.